Hi there, and welcome to Manifesting Through Mindfulness and Meditation with Jenna Allen. There is a worksheet that goes along with this class that you can print if you've not done that already. It's a guide to go along with the class if you'd like it. If you do have the sheet and you catch the things as we go along, then that's great, but we'll fill them in at the end together if you miss anything. So, what will we talk about today? We will talk about what mindfulness is, we'll talk about what meditation isn't, and why some people find it so difficult. And really, that's all about the previous question, redefining what meditation is will help us to make meditation a little bit easier. I think everybody out there who has done meditation and has found it difficult or not for them, it's just that they haven't found the right tools and the right definition of meditation that works for them. Lastly, we will talk about how mindfulness is like magic and how it relates to the law of attraction. And heads up, the positivity trap that you hear being touted about the law of attraction is total bullshit, and we'll talk about that and how mindfulness can assist you in making the law of attraction actually work in your favor, opening up portals of synchronicity, healing, and transformation like you have never known. I am Jenna Allen, certified hypnotherapist, bachelor's in psychology, trauma recovery practitioner, and I'll be starting my doctorate program for psychology in the fall of 2019. I've been a mom since 2006. I am married to my partner who I've been with since 2003 or 4, maybe 3 or 4. I am a life coach. I specialize in working with trauma survivors and teaching the law of attraction since 2010. I am a mental illness recovered trauma survivor. I have reduced my own autoimmune disease symptoms by 80%, how they were impacting my life. I was debilitated by them before, but using mindfulness and emotional clearing methods, I have, like I said, recovered 100% from mental illness symptoms and have experienced an 80% reduction in how those autoimmune disease symptoms have been impacting my life. I was diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety, depression stemming from early childhood trauma. And for 10 years of my life, I had unexplained debilitating illness and pain. And until I discovered mindfulness, I had little to no relief from those symptoms. I had my first emotional clearing session in 2008 and started my own mindfulness practice regularly, doing that in 2015, and it has helped me to really reclaim my life. But mindfulness is really what turned everything around for me. I hadn't realized that much of what I'd been teaching in my law of attraction classes for years was mindfulness. And once I found this missing piece, things really, really turned around for me. When I discovered law of attraction, they turned around for me, but not like they did when I found mindfulness. And it really is about developing and being able to implement skillful means for coping, rather than turning to medications, alcohol, marijuana, addictions, and things like I used to do. I'm no longer living a life addicted, unhappy, and sick, and it has everything to do with my regular mindfulness practice. So we'll begin today with a short moment of mindfulness, getting settled in with a grounding meditation. Just a short, guided mindfulness exercise to get us out of our heads and into the body. This is just a practice to help bring us here into our body in this moment. It won't be long, just about 5 minutes. Finding a comfortable posture with both feet on the floor if that's available to you. Allowing the eyes to close gently if that feels okay, or just lowering your gaze. And then bringing attention into the areas of contact that your feet are having with the floor. Just feeling into your feet. Noticing the solidity of the ground under your feet. Maybe feeling where your shoes are in contact with your feet, the bottoms of your feet. And now moving on to the thighs and the buttocks and noticing where they have contact with the chair. And just allowing the ground and the chair to hold and support your body without you needing to do anything. And now moving the attention to your back. Where does your back touch the chair? Can you feel the difference between where there's contact and where there's none? And now moving the attention to the hands, feeling into the hands, maybe noticing the position of the hands, or noticing what the hands are touching, maybe your chair or your thighs or one hand touching the other. And any time the mind is distracted with thoughts and curiosities or noises or sensations, just bringing the attention back to the area of the body that we're focused on in that moment. Each time the mind is distracted and you notice it, you've actually done mindfulness perfectly. It's all about noticing when the mind is distracted and then choosing to redirect that focus back to where we're at. Focusing on those hands, and you can even ask yourself, how do I know I have hands without looking? We just know. We can feel our hands from within. And then opening the awareness and feeling your entire body, sitting here in this moment on this chair. And for the last moments of our short meditation, bringing the attention to the breath. And without manipulating or controlling the breath in any way, just noticing where in the body you feel the breath the most. Perhaps for you, it's the nostrils or the throat. For someone else, it could be the chest or maybe the belly. And then using that place as the anchor for your attention, this is where you come back to over and over whenever the mind wanders off. Now, just letting the breath breathe itself. No need to make it any other way than it wants to be. And when you notice your attention is somewhere else, you can celebrate doing mindfulness perfectly. And then choose to gently, without judgment, bring your attention back to the breath. A lot of times we will judge ourselves, say we shouldn't be thinking, or feeling bad that we've not done it right. But that's what mindfulness meditation is all about. Just noticing when the mind is distracted and then choosing to focus on the moment. Right now, that moment is the breath. And as we end our short mindfulness practice, you can check in with the heart and the mind and notice how they feel. Notice how it felt to focus in this way. We're strengthening our attention muscle when we do mindfulness practice. And when our muscle of focus is strong, then we're able to access inner healing and realms of possibility that may not have been accessible to us before. And this focus muscle we're working on is vital to the manifestation of what you want to attract and manifest in your life. I used to teach the law of attraction, and we all have a certain point of attraction, a vibrational frequency from which we're attracting things. If you have low frequency, then you're attracting and manifesting drama, illness, lack. If you're vibrating at a high frequency, you're manifesting supportive relationships, health, wealth, healthy job environments, on and on. Example, an abused girl who grew up in a home with domestic violence will attract abusive partners until she begins to value herself in a new way through self-love, therapy, those different types of things, and raises her vibration to a higher frequency. The law of attraction is always working for us. It's always attracting into our life experiences the people and the circumstances that match our frequency that we're giving off. It's doing this for the purpose of showing us where our frequency is. If we're manifesting lack in some way, lack in our relationships, lack in our health, lack in our bank account, lack in our happiness, if we're manifesting lack, then that's our opportunity to pay attention to what's going on within us. Most of the world out there is just blaming and looking outside and saying, well, if this circumstance was different in life, and if that was different in life, then I would be happy. But we have to think of Nelson Mandela, who was in jail and, found a deep sense of peace and happiness regardless of the circumstances that were going on around him, found a deeper connection to peace and happiness than he had ever had before. And in order to activate the law of attraction working in our favor, we have to first be really in tune with ourselves. We have to be able to accept what's happening in any moment and willing to work with what's there right in front of us. If we don't have these elements of being in tune, this acceptance, and this willingness piece, then we aren't going to change anything. Everything's just going to stay the same. It's also imperative to be able to tell the difference between what Buddha calls the wholesome mind and the unwholesome mind. You are probably familiar with the term ego. We're either acting from an ego-led place or a spirit-led place. We are either consciously creating or we're unconsciously creating and manifesting things in our life. And mindfulness teaches us how to be so in tune with ourselves that we're able to tell the difference in the moment. We're able to feel the immediate difference of what it feels like between attracting something we do want and like and doing the opposite of that, manifesting more lack in our lives. And so mindfulness allows us to start to tell the difference, and this changes all of our actions, and then all of the unhealthy patterns that we've been stuck in, they start to dissipate, and we begin to naturally develop skillful means for coping. aligning us with our natural abilities for healing and transformation. And next, we'll talk about exactly what mindfulness is. So, the pioneer of mindfulness in America is Jon Kabat-Zinn. Our culture requires scientific evidence rather than just spiritual practice to go on, and he is the perfect person to bring the studies of mindfulness to the United States, because he's been researching mindfulness for over 30 years now, and his studies have been showing that mindfulness makes a difference in people's lives, especially in terms of pain and stress management. So let's unpack his definition a little bit. He says that mindfulness is awareness that arises from paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, moment by moment, and non-judgmentally. So it is key for us to be present. Our mind is hardly ever in the present. We're mostly rehashing the past or rehearsing the future. And being in this state means we miss the present moment, which is the only moment that we ever have to be alive in, to make decisions, grow, heal, be there for the people that we love. But most of the time, we're not here now, and we're on autopilot, lost in our thoughts. And it's almost as if the moment that we're in right now is not even worth paying attention to. We'd rather plan a wonderful future or great times when it's totally worth being present. But when we do get there, are we really all that present for it? Chances are we're not, because the mind isn't trained to stay in the present, and it's always looking to the past or to the future. I've done this a number of times where I plan a big trip for months or a year, and when I get there, the first thing I'm saying to everyone is, hey, next year when we come, we've got to do this or that, right? And, we've all done that, right? We're not living in the present moment. And this is also why, as people watch their kids grow up, they, they'll warn the next generation, oh, don't miss it. You'll blink and it's gone. But we only miss our kids growing up because we weren't really present for the moments that we were in with them. And if we are present for those moments that we're in with them, it won't fly by. It won't feel like it's gone by so fast because we were really there for them. So we have to train the mind to be present so that time doesn't fly by like that. And the other part of this definition is to pay attention non-judgmentally. We want to look at the thoughts in our mind with kindness as much as possible. Life is hard at times for all of us, but it's also wonderful and miraculous. And the key element to mindfulness is having a curious, kind attention to all of our experiences. We spend a lot of time in our minds kind of hard on ourselves and putting ourselves down a lot. If we really pay attention to the way that we're thinking, we're kind of in attack or protection mode often, even having defensive arguments with other people in our minds that aren't even real or existing, or shouldn'ting ourselves all over the place. Shoulding on ourselves is never something that's beneficial or good for us. So let's talk about the law of attraction and how it relates to mindfulness. The law of attraction says that like attracts like. Two frequencies cannot coexist together without being a match to one another. So if I have a low frequency, again, I'll attract low frequency experiences. If I have a higher frequency, I will attract higher frequency experiences. No matter what we've attracted or manifested in our life, the law of attraction is always working in our favor. There's either a lesson to be learned or a wound to be healed if we've manifested something that we do not like. And you can master it working even better for you if we make our desires, our true desires, conscious. So everything we've attracted somehow, because we are energy satellites. We are broadcasting and receiving according to what we're broadcasting out. And it doesn't mean that we are to blame for what we've created or manifest. It just means that we do have the ability and the power to change it, which is great. It's great news. So, think of someone in terms of blaming yourself. Think of someone sneezing in an elevator, right? And then days later, they realize that they have the flu. They didn't know that when they sneezed in the elevator, they had the flu. So they're not really to blame for giving everyone in the elevator the flu. So you are not to blame because you didn't know that you had this power or this control when you manifested your illness. Or in your life now, maybe the shitty boss or the friend that took advantage of you, or the lack of money in your bank account. But now you do, and instead of blaming yourself in the past for what you didn't know, you can empower yourself to make changes and take a new level of responsibility for your life and yourself than ever before. Everything in the universe is just energy. And two things must vibrate at the same frequency to occupy the same space. And if they don't, then the other must change to match it, or the two energies must diverge. I've seen this over and over again in my clients' lives. When they start to change their belief systems, then the people around them either change to match their vibrational frequency, or they are removed from their lives. So we draw into our life the things that match our energy vibration, and we have to figure out what's blocking that. It's more than just positive thinking. We have to find out, why am I a match to what I don't want, and why am I not a match to what I do want? And we have to heal those imbalances and figure out why we're manifesting those negative experiences. It's more than just positive thinking. And I have a lot of clients who come to me and say, I've been doing all this law of attraction work and thinking so positively, but I'm just not manifesting what it is that I want to. And it's because the teachings about, only needing to be positive to manifest things are total BS. And we have to work deeper. We have to work a little bit deeper in the psyche and the subconscious mind. It is essential to be in a space of thinking positively. And that's a big piece of it and a big part of it. But we forget about a few other aspects. The emotions that are conscious emotions and the subconscious emotions, they need to be on board with what we want to create. We have to have a willingness to do what it takes to get there. And we may have, and usually have, many subconscious blocks or resistance to doing what it takes or to being willing. We have to be in a place of complete acceptance and gratitude of what is and what has been. We have to surrender to the will of the universe and be in a place of allowing and receptivity, like we've been talking about with mindfulness. And each one of these steps, it takes work, it takes dedication. And I have different classes to master that. I have a class called Manifest Your Best Life Now, and it teaches a method, a step-by-step program of how to master the art of these things, uncovering your hidden subconscious blockages to peace, love, health, wealth, success, and true happiness, and rewriting those in the subconscious mind, and how to do that. My close to 3,000 sessions of working with trauma survivors has shown me what people need to look at, how they need to see things, what they need to change in order to manifest what it is in their life that they're wanting, that they're desiring and looking for and asking for. So I'm most often asked why we manifest or why we would attract especially negative experiences, things that seem really, really out of our control, like a kid with a terminal illness, or an elderly person who's got Alzheimer's, or someone who has Down's syndrome. And I really just think that there's energy in the universe that's working on a grander scale. And, just like we all have, it's kind of like this. So if you cut yourself, then the wound begins to attract exactly what it needs to heal. All the different types of cells start to come to that wound and start repairing it, and it just does it on its own. We don't need to consciously think about that. We don't need to make it happen. We don't need to force it. It just happens. So that's kind of how we are in life, is that we are, we have these wounds that happened in our childhood, and we are drawing and attracting things that we need in order to heal. Now, this is also happening on a bigger scale, where maybe in past lives, or maybe there's a soul level wound that needs some healing and is going to benefit from the strength that we derive from a situation like a terminal illness or a terminally ill child, and caring for them, or caring for a parent who is, has memory loss and those types of things. So that's kind of my take on why we manifest those bigger and more grand types of negative experiences that no one would ever choose, right? But once we start using these steps to activate the law of attraction, we start finding healing. We heal the emotional and the mental blocks that we've had and that have been keeping us from finding the right books, the right healers, the right coaches, the right friends, the right role models that change our perspectives on these things. Even these bigger things start to seem we start to find joy in our challenges. We start to find relief and compassion and love and acceptance. And everything that's happening for us, we've been, has been brought to our lives in order for us to heal, for us to grow. So we have to look at it that way. Okay, so mindfulness and receptivity. Mindfulness meditation is the ultimate act of receiving. And this receptivity, this level of receptivity, is only accessible right now through the stillness of the mind, where we can really receive our true selves and all that's abundantly ours. The law of attraction is all about receiving, right? Opening ourselves to receiving abundance, receiving health, receiving money, receiving the job or the career we want, receiving the friendship and treatment that we want and desire, receiving the partnership and the relationships that we want, right? And mindfulness, again, is that ultimate act of receiving. We're falling into a space of receptivity, receiving ourselves right where we are. And in turn, the universe gives more to us as we send signals out through our act of receiving. The universe says, oh, look at that. He's sitting there to receive himself. He must want to receive more abundance, love, wisdom, and friendship. And these things, again, are only accessible through the stillness. And when we sit down to our meditation practice, what we're doing is receiving. So what is meditation? Let's clear up some of that, because I think that's why most people don't meditate, is they have this faulty definition of what meditation is or isn't. So just think for a second, what do you think meditation is, and what has stopped you from meditating in the past? Have you tried, and why not? And if you have tried, why haven't you stuck with it? Think about your biggest challenge as it relates to chronic stress. How does stress show up most in your life? Does it show up most in your parenting, your work, your partnership, your family, your relationships? And what have you tried to do in order to find balance? Have you tried anything, or do you just put your head in the sand? Just kind of accept, like, oh, that's the way it is. Think about your biggest challenges as it relates to following your creative passion, making your career and hobby goals come true. And what have you tried there in order to find balance? And how about body wellness? What's your biggest challenge as it relates to that? And what have you tried to find balance there? And what would change in your life if you were able to solve these stressors in your life, if these weren't there for you? What would that mean to you? How would that change your life? Meditation can change the energy around all of those things. But we have to develop the skills to meditate properly. We have to know what meditation is. So when we come to meditation for relaxation, then we're doing it wrong. Meditation is not clearing the mind. It is getting to know the mind. It's getting to watch the mind, label the mind. Is it rehashing the past? Is it rehearsing the future? Is it in desire or aversion? Is it striving to be somewhere it's not? And watching how the mind is causing suffering for us. Getting to know the mind and seeing it, right? Getting to know all of our weaknesses, getting to know and see that maybe we're suffering over a situation because we had an expectation of how it would go, right? Our mind is controlling how much suffering we are experiencing. And when we sit and we watch the mind, we start to observe this phenomenon of this creation of suffering, and we're able to kind of separate from it in our real life because we sit down every day and we practice this for a number of minutes, and then we get up and we go into real life and we start to suddenly see like, oh, wow, my mind's doing that suffering thing again. Well, I see you, mind, and that's not who I am. So I'm not going to choose to get lost or caught up in it, right? So again, mindfulness is not relaxation. Mindfulness meditation can be deeply relaxing, and you will experience states of calm and ease, but that's not our goal. Sometimes when we practice, we're just not relaxed, and we can't force anything to be that isn't already. That just causes us suffering when we try to do that, right? So our goal in meditation is to be goalless. We don't even have the goal to relax. Our goal is to be present with what's already here in the moment, and if possible, hold it with kindness. So our goal is to let go of the goal. Mindfulness is not suppressing feelings. Meditation is not suppressing our feelings. A lot of critics of meditation will say, well, you're just trying to escape your feelings. But really, in mindfulness meditation, it's this deeper awareness and acceptance of all that is, a deeper awareness of our feelings, our emotions, our mind, our thoughts, and what it's doing. Meditation is not a quick fix. While sometimes we might feel deeply at peace and right at home when we start meditating, many times when we meditate, we're bored, we're restless, we're anxious, and the meditation practice is a process that unfolds over time. At first, it's really difficult to start a mindfulness practice. It's more stressful because you're changing something kind of big in your life. You are finding time, you're having to find time to do meditation, you're having to fit it into your schedule. It kind of, it makes life a little bit more stressful when you first start it. You have to get over that little hump, and very quickly, within a matter of weeks, most of my clients start saying, wow, I can't go without it now, or I've gone without it for a few days and now I feel off, or last week I didn't meditate at all, and oh my gosh, it made this really big difference in my life. I had this horrible week, or, different things. So it becomes like brushing our teeth, where when you forget to do it in the beginning of the day, all day long, something just feels off. And so meditation becomes this desirable thing eventually, but it's a process, again, that unfolds over time. So meditation, mindfulness is not a technique. It becomes a way of life. It becomes a lens through which we choose to see what's happening. We come to a seated formal meditation for a number of weeks, and after so many times of doing this, meditation becomes a state of mind, a state of being that we can enter into during any moment that we choose to be fully present to. And we can learn to become, once again, like an infant and see the world purely if we're committed enough. This is what we call enlightenment. It becomes a way of life. And especially in my mindfulness training classes, I teach people how to make everything a meditation and a moment of mindfulness, being with our kids, eating, walking, talking, in conversation with other people. Meditation, mindfulness is not a religion. Mindfulness is a practice and a philosophy that's derived from Buddhist tradition, but it's not a religion itself. Mindfulness can be a spiritual path, and it will always enrich and support your own spiritual life and gets us more in touch with the familiar practices of steady, kind attention, loving kindness, compassion, and gratitude that are a part of all religions. So when we use seated formal meditation practice repeatedly, it trains the mind and the body how to enter into mindfulness, a pure present moment awareness of what is. And it's a process, a practice that unfolds over time. Yes, there are a set of techniques that help us to detach from the mind and the beliefs, and we are able to access abundance and flow in a new way, and things start to become more synchronistic, and we start to manifest and attract things that are positive and good and uplifting in our lives, like work environments or relationships. They all start to change when we start to sit down with ourselves in this new way and give ourselves the loving attention that we deserve, and the kindness and the compassion. In my mindfulness classes, we learn how to develop a kindness and a compassion toward ourselves that then starts to become reflected back to us in the world around us. Mindfulness is not something we can just intellectualize. We can't just listen and take it in. You might be moved or changed from simply hearing about mindfulness and the philosophies, but you will never experience the full transformational power until you show up day in and day out for yourself and apply the tools of the process. You can't go from never cooking a meal to being a gourmet chef by just reading a cookbook or just studying the philosophies about cooking, right? If you want to be fit or healthy, you can't just read health magazines or watch exercise videos, right? Don't we wish? You have to prep and cook food, you have to work out, and you can't just do it once a day. You have to do it daily and regularly, almost every day for sometimes a long period of time. If you want to experience those benefits, and mindfulness is like fitness for the mind. It is something that must be cultivated over time, just like that. Our ego is very sly and can even be a cunning manipulator at times and tell us, well, I don't have time for this today, or I don't need this. I'm in a good mood, or, this is not a good fit for me, before we've even tried it or before we've made it past a few weeks or a few months in practicing the meditation. And the ego will avoid success because we have subconscious desires to stay small and not shine, or we have subconscious needs for the things that we've manifested in our life, and the ego knows, like, oh, wait a minute, if I start to give myself love in this way, I'm going to start to experience intimacy with life in a new way, and that's a little different and unfamiliar and scary, and I've developed all these walls and all these different things in my life that are just like I had when I grew up, and those are familiar. So the ego has various reasons to want to avoid, coming to our true selves. Maybe there are scary emotions that we've been stuffing down or avoiding by keeping busy and going. And we all have a very strong ego. And often this is the part of ourselves kind of driving the ship. And if we learn to see when it's happening, then it naturally begins to lose control over us. And that's what happens in mindfulness meditation, right? And so an example of this losing control, right? I'll find myself yelling at the automated message over the phone, or being too hard on myself or my kid, or, having really worrisome or negative thoughts and getting caught up in the stories that my mind is telling, like why somebody didn't respond to my text right away, or, different things like that, getting caught up in the suffering, right? And so mindfulness helps us to see what the mind is doing and not have our mind full of crap, but have our mind full of truth and compassion and love and peace. So we'll talk a little bit about the foundations of mindfulness. There's a lot of different aspects to mindfulness. It's not about just sitting down and meditating. There's mindfulness of the body. Mindfulness of the body is the first foundation of mindfulness. It's our starting point and our anchor to the present moment. We practice this first foundation with exercises like the body scan and mindful eating, mindfulness of breathing, mindfulness of sound, and mindful walking in the first set of sessions. And we notice the direct sensory experience of the body and how we can utilize that to bring us into the present moment, because most of the time we're doing those things like breathing, walking, eating, without any type of conscious awareness of the sensations. There's mindfulness of feeling tones. By being mindful of the body, we start to notice that all experience can be categorized into distinct feeling tones, like unpleasant, pleasant, or neutral. And while they're easily confused, feeling tones are not the same as emotions. Rather, they actually accompany them. For example, while we usually think sadness is unpleasant, it can also be experienced as pleasant or not really register at all if the feeling tone is neutral, right? So we learn how to experience our emotions and relate to them in this new way, that they're not always creating suffering for us. There's mindfulness of the mind, turning our attention to the mental activity like thoughts or emotions as mere objects that can be observed in a non-reactive way. And like I said, that storytelling, the mind is storytelling all of the time, and how to relate to this and how to deal with that, right? Tools for relating to that in a new way that's empowering. Mindfulness of how the mind operates is the fourth foundation of mindfulness. The focus here is on the classification of related experiences into specific categories or lists. For example, the 5 hindrances that we just talked about before, labeling the thoughts as desire or aversion, worry, lethargy, different things like that that hinder our mind, and learning how the mind operates. Buddha was amazing. Nowadays they have all these articles that you see online, like 3 ways to do this, the 5 best ways to do that. And Buddha was doing that a long time ago. He was making all types of different lists and 3-step, 4-step things to help us remember so that we can start to recognize our habits of mind and develop that present moment, non-judgmental awareness. While compassion is an active and kind turning toward our suffering, our own suffering and that of others, with the aim of relieving it to whatever degree possible, right? So developing this type of kind attention to ourselves, it opens up portals of manifesting that we never thought were possible. Sitting with ourselves in complete acceptance each day for some minutes, some number of minutes, turns on an empowerment inside of us that, I tell you what, it's magical. I watch it every day with people. I watch people's lives change magically. And we start to see synchronicities and magical things aligning for us like never before once we've committed to our own practice on a regular basis. So, what's up next for you? We start to learn how to recognize the habits of the mind and what to do when we see those old ways creeping up. We learn about the purposes of our of mindfulness techniques versus the side effects. So relaxation might not be the purpose of meditation, but it's a side effect once we get into that groove and it's starting to happen for us. So we learn the difference between the purposes and the side effects. And we learn about non-striving, how to get out of being locked in a struggle to change things. Once we get to know our mind in this way, we begin to tap into the reservoirs of magic that lie dormant underneath the surface of our survivalist ego mind and our trauma-driven or wound-driven choices. I am a personal development junkie, and I've tried everything out there to help with my former PTSD, depression, and anxiety symptoms, as well as everything physically and medically available to me for my chronic autoimmune disease symptoms. And nothing, I'm telling you, nothing helped nearly as much as mindfulness has. For 10 straight years, I chased every cure, every diet out there, and I found relief only by continuing to take certain medications or while maintaining extreme diets until I developed my own mindfulness practice. And then every single thing in my life began changing. Even family I had been estranged with, I started becoming closer to. I suddenly had friendships with supportive, inspiring, and uplifting people. All of my mental illness symptoms are gone completely. The impact that my autoimmune disease symptoms were having on my life was reduced by 80%, and I've been able to come off of the strict diets and regimes that I'd been in for years. And even after years of therapy and intense emotional clearing, I hadn't come close to how great I feel now with mindfulness. Not that I don't still need those things. I do see a therapist for challenges in my life or in my marriage when I need it. But it's been mindfulness that has made the most drastic difference for me, opening up portals of magic and manifesting that I just simply did not have access to before. I had been manifesting amazing things. That's how I got started in teaching the law of attraction. I learned and learned and learned a lot about it. I took it in. I started using it. People started asking, how are you changing this? How are you manifesting that? Wow, you look so good. How do you look this much better? You used to be really sick. And how are you manifesting, these different things? And so I was like, well, let me tell you. And I would tell people, and I realized that I had a certain number of steps or a certain number of things that I was doing that I was telling these people. So then I was like, wow, I should put that together in a class. And I did. And so that's the Manifest Your Best Life Now class that I made before. But so that was a long time ago. That was years and years ago. And that's when I was starting on my law of attraction journey. And that's before I found mindfulness. Once I found mindfulness, things began to change at 100 times the rate than they were changing prior to that. So mindfulness really is a key factor in making the law of attraction work in our favor a little bit more, in favor of our conscious desires. But mindfulness only works if you work it. This class is just a small taster of a longer 8-week version, and you can choose to go forward with a mindfulness training course. They're 8 weeks or 6 weeks, depending on the packages that are available. They are 30 to 45 minutes each week. And I have 2 webinar classes a week. I do private sessions. I can do these for a group of individuals that you put together. And all of these things can be done by Skype or over the phone or however you want to do it. I also can come to your location. We can do it on my location. I can get groups together in any kind of way that you'd like to. When we commit to looking at the stressors in our life through a new lens, it definitely has a huge impact on our creation potential. We start manifesting healthier, more supportive relationships, friendlier service where we go, increased success, patience, love, and compassion. Those are just a few of the many benefits that you'll experience when you commit to a regular mindfulness practice in your life. Tony Robbins talks about how we have to take massive determined action, that is required for change. And showing up for something like this, that's new and different, that's out of our comfort zone, that is massive determined action. Anytime we're willing to do something that's different or foreign to us, or just go further into our knowledge about ourselves, even if it's not, maybe mindfulness isn't foreign or new to you, right? But delving further into that, we're amply rewarded. The inner psyche, it feels like we're taking action, and we start to subconsciously feel worthy of manifesting on a new level. And spiritually, I believe that our vibration is matched and we start receiving at the level that we're gifting to ourselves. If I'm gifting myself time and attention, I am going to receive time and attention from the world around me. And it's not uncommon at all for people taking this course to start manifesting a different level of service and different types of relationships and success and on and on. You're doing something that no one can do for you, which is being an active participant on the path to your own growth and your healing. You're uncovering legitimate means for coping or manifesting, because I can guarantee you now, without mindfulness in your life, you're using some unskillful means of coping in your life with the stressors and the suffering. So we learn the skills for coping, as well as manifesting a life that aligns with our own capacity for wholeness and for well-being. And we learn to come into contact with our natural abilities within for relief from old stressors and patterns of sabotage, and also our natural abilities for manifesting the type of life that's important to us. So the mindfulness and meditation class, again, is available now. Webinars and in-person sessions for business and social groups anywhere in the world. Small gatherings and large gatherings, anything that you'd like to get together. So you can just contact me. My email is jenna@manifestyourlifenow.com. Right? The classes are incorporating the principles and the philosophies and exercises of mindfulness into our lives. We start with 5 minutes of meditation, working our way up to 20, but don't worry, it took me a year and a half to get up to 20 minutes of meditation. And, and even in that, I was consistent for a few weeks and then I'd fall off, and then I'd be consistent for a month and then I'd fall off. It takes time. Everyone's on their own timetable, but in the beginning, we just need 5 minutes a day to start with. I know you've got 5 minutes a day, or even just 30 seconds to practice our mindfulness, right? Law of attraction says that what I gift to myself, the universe will gift to me. And our mindfulness practice is the gifting to ourselves of time, right? Who doesn't want more time? Gifting ourselves focused attentiveness and loving care, changing that frequency. And that's the first thing I noticed in my mindfulness journey, is manifesting better services at restaurants and grocery stores and bank lines. The other day, I even had this hilarious conversation with the Verizon guy, and I was cracking up on the phone. And I was like, man, I used to never have experiences like this when I was in that old low frequency. And so if you want to work on increasing your manifesting potential, then mindfulness class is for you. So here, once again, is my contact info. You can find me on Facebook as well as Instagram. On my website, I've got a newsletter that you can sign up for. The blog is there. Oh, I have a new podcast that I've recently started since creating this slideshow, and it's called Soul Sex by Jenna Allen, and it's on iTunes. And Soul Sex is all about getting intimate with our souls, and has a lot more information on these subconscious creations of sabotage and illness and mental illness and physical maladies and different things. I also do practitioner training, mindfulness-based emotional clearing, and trauma recovery certification for practitioners who want to use removal of subconscious blockages to help their clients and patients make better progress. So the website there is mbtraumarecovery.com for all of those things, where you can sign up for receiving the podcasts as a newsletter, and where you can learn more about practitioner training. Again, that's MB, like mindfulness based. So mbtraumarecovery.com. Again, the email is jenna@manifestyourlifenow.com. And the phone number is 815-694-0104. So we're going to review the worksheet and look at the answers for that and what we've learned today. What I learned today in Mindfulness and Meditation 101 with Jenna Allen. So mindfulness works to strengthen the focus muscle. The focus muscle. To change my point of attraction and manifest a joy-filled life, I must be in tune with myself. In tune. I must also be able to tell the difference between what Buddha termed the wholesome mind and the unwholesome mind. A regular mindfulness practice gives me skillful means for coping with the stressors in my life and aligns me with my natural abilities for healing and transformation. Skillful means for coping, natural abilities for healing and transformation. Mindfulness is defined by John Kabat-Zinn as awareness that arises from paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, moment by moment, and non-judgmentally. Feel free to pause the video if you need to fill some of those in a little bit more. The mind is hardly present because it's constantly rehashing the past or rehearsing the future. A key element of mindfulness is curious, kind attention to, and you can circle all of my experience, all experience. Now is the only moment that I have to be alive, to learn, grow, and be there for the people I love. Mindfulness meditation is not about clearing the mind, it's about getting to know the mind. The goal is to be goalless. Mindfulness only works if I what? Work it. If I work it, right? Like an exercise routine. I can't get fit without working out. When I commit to looking at the stressors in my life through a new lens, this will have a huge and transformational impact on my creation potential. Healthier, more supportive relationships, friendlier service, increased success, patience, love, and compassion are just a few Just a few of the many benefits that we'll experience when we commit to a regular mindfulness practice. Just a few. Massive determined action is required to make a difference in my life, and this means stepping out of my comfort zone. You can decide now for your self-empowerment opportunity, how many minutes of meditation a day would you like to gift to yourself? And if you're already meditating, maybe you'd like to increase your current meditation time just once this week and just kind of play around. Maybe if I add 2 minutes or 5 minutes, I'll feel some sort of difference. The resources I gift to myself, I receive in turn. My meditation journey will not always be easy, but I'm not alone. I'm here with you. I am right here struggling with the same issues that practitioners have been struggling with for 3,000 years since the time mindfulness originated. I'm here struggling too. All the monks at the Buddhist temple in my town, they're struggling with us too. They all have the same challenges with meditation, finding the time to do it, making it a habit, focusing on the thoughts and redirecting our attention to the breath or the body or whatever type of meditation we're doing. All right, and then you can check off different things that maybe you can do to improve your meditation practice this week if you've already got one going. You might find a good location or try different areas in your home. You might play with the time length of your meditation practice. You might try being more consistent with meditation, right? You might try attending a temple or a class regularly, telling an accountability partner about your journey. And of course, absolutely joining Jenna's next training seminar. Again, I am Jenna Allen, and thank you so much for joining me for this 101 on meditation and mindfulness and manifesting. I mean, it's magic. It really is. So thank you. Thank you for joining me. I really hope and look forward to seeing you soon.